The grand opening of Bikini Bar was supposed to be nothing more than another glamorous Los Angeles spectacle. An evening overflowing with expensive champagne, camera flashes, loud music, and carefully rehearsed smiles. Neon lights bathed the beachfront venue in electric shades of pink and blue, while the Pacific Ocean rolled restlessly behind the crowded terrace like a dark, endless witness to the chaos waiting to unfold. Influencers posed beside glowing signs, reporters fought for interviews, and members of the city's elite drifted through the celebration pretending their lives were far less complicated than they truly were. But beneath the glittering surface of the event, tension already lingered among the guests. The Logan and Spencer families occupied the same space with the fragile politeness of people carrying decades of emotional warfare beneath perfectly tailored clothing. Brooke Logan stood near the bar, speaking quietly with Katie, though her attention repeatedly drifted toward Ridge across the room. Their marriage had survived another storm recently, but the cracks remained visible to anyone paying close enough attention. Shauna Fulton's lingering presence in Los Angeles still haunted Brooke's thoughts like a threat she could neither fully confront nor completely erase. Meanwhile, Bill Spencer carried himself with his usual commanding confidence, entertaining investors and journalists with calculated charm. Yet even Bill appeared distracted tonight. Wyatt's sudden silence over the past several weeks unsettled him more than he cared to admit. Their relationship had always been complicated, part rivalry, part loyalty, part unresolved resentment. But Bill knew his son well enough to recognize when something significant was being hidden, and Wyatt had definitely been hiding something. Nobody, however, could have predicted just how explosive that secret truly was. The music inside Bikini Bar shifted suddenly as the crowd near the entrance began murmuring. Several heads turned almost simultaneously. Conversations softened into whispers. Even the photographers instinctively redirected their cameras toward the doorway, as though sensing scandal before fully understanding it. Then Wyatt Spencer walked in. At first glance, he appeared calm and composed, dressed sharply in a dark suit with the effortless confidence expected from a Spencer heir. But it wasn't Wyatt himself who stunned the room into silence. It was the woman beside him. Shauna Fulton entered holding a baby in her arms. For one suspended moment, the entire atmosphere inside Bikini Bar froze. Brooke's expression drained of color instantly. Ridge straightened across the room, unable to hide his shock. Even Bill Spencer slowly lowered the glass in his hand as confusion hardened across his face. And standing at the center of it all, Wyatt looked almost eerily calm. The baby resting against Shauna's shoulder couldn't have been more than several months old. He had bright eyes, soft curls, and the peaceful expression only infants possessed, completely unaware that his existence had just detonated a bomb inside one of Los Angeles's most volatile families. Shauna, meanwhile, wore a faint smile that bordered dangerously on triumph. Not arrogant, not openly provocative, but undeniably satisfied, because she understood exactly what this moment would do to Brooke Logan. Wyatt gently placed a hand against Shauna's back before finally addressing the room with steady confidence. I guess there's no reason to keep this secret anymore. Nobody moved. Nobody even breathed properly. Bill stepped forward first, his voice low and disbelieving. Wyatt, what the hell is this? Wyatt looked directly at his father. This is my family. The words landed like thunder. Brooke instinctively grabbed the edge of the nearby table to steady herself as a cold wave of dread moved through her body. She already sensed where this was heading, and the realization made her stomach twist violently. Then Wyatt delivered the final blow. Shauna and I got married in Las Vegas several months ago, he announced clearly. And this is our son. The silence afterward felt almost unreal. A reporter near the entrance accidentally dropped a champagne flute, the sharp sound of breaking glass echoing through the room like punctuation to the disaster unfolding in front of everyone. Bill Spencer stared at his son as though he no longer recognized him. You got married? He repeated slowly. To her. The emphasis on the final word instantly sharpened the tension. Shauna's smile faded slightly, though she maintained her composure beautifully. Wyatt's jaw tightened. "Watch your tone." Bill let out a stunned laugh filled with disbelief. "My tone? Wyatt, this woman has spent years tangled up in chaos with Brooke and the Forresters, and you secretly marry her without telling anyone." "She's my wife," Wyatt replied firmly. "And that's my grandson." "Yes." Bill looked at the baby again, and for the briefest moment, genuine emotion broke through his shock. There was confusion there, anger, even betrayal, but also something softer, something almost vulnerable. Bill Spencer was many things, but family still affected him in ways he rarely admitted aloud. Unfortunately, Brooke Logan was experiencing none of that softness. She stared at Shauna with open disgust, every old wound immediately ripping back open. The sight of Shauna, standing beside Wyatt holding a Spencer child, felt grotesquely symbolic somehow, as though years of rivalry and manipulation had finally evolved into something far more dangerous. "This is unbelievable," Brooke whispered. Shauna turned toward her slowly. "No, saunari plaid kamli. This is real." The tension between the two women instantly poisoned the air around them. Brooke stepped closer, unable to contain the fury burning inside her anymore. "You really just inserted yourself into another family the first chance you got." Wyatt moved protectively beside Shauna immediately. "Don't talk to my wife like that." Brooke laughed bitterly, almost shaking with outrage. "Your wife? Wyatt, do you even understand what she's done to people? To marriages?" Shauna's eyes darkened slightly. "Funny," she said quietly. "Coming from you." The insult hit its target perfectly. Brooke's expression hardened with humiliation and rage, while nearby guests pretended not to listen despite hanging onto every word. Because everyone in Los Angeles remembered the long, messy history between Brooke Logan and Shauna Fulton. They remembered the jealousy, the betrayals, the emotional warfare surrounding Ridge Forrester. Shauna had once threatened Brooke's marriage directly, slipping into vulnerable cracks between Brooke and Ridge when their relationship began collapsing under years of exhaustion and family conflict. And now she stood there carrying the Spencer name. That realization terrified Brooke more than she wanted anyone to know. Because this wasn't simply a scandalous marriage. It was a shift in power. Ridge eventually crossed the room, his expression unreadable as his eyes landed briefly on Shauna before settling on Wyatt. "You should have told people." Wyatt gave a small shrug. "Would it have changed anything?" "No," Ridge admitted honestly. "But secrets like this don't stay buried forever." Shauna adjusted the baby gently in her arms, though internally she remained intensely aware of Brooke's stare burning into her. Part of Shauna genuinely wanted peace tonight. She wanted acceptance for her child, for her marriage, for the life she had built away from everyone's judgment. But another part of her, the wounded, resentful part shaped by years of humiliation and rejection, couldn't ignore the satisfaction of watching Brooke unravel. Because Brooke had always acted as though she alone deserved happiness. As though every other woman orbiting Ridge or the Forrester world existed merely as a temporary threat to be discarded eventually. Now Shauna had secured something Brooke could never erase. A Spencer heir. And deep down, Shauna knew Brooke understood exactly how dangerous that made her. Bill finally approached the baby carefully, still visibly struggling to process everything. The infant blinked up at him innocently, completely untouched by the storm raging around him. "What's his name?" Bill asked quietly. Wyatt's expression softened for the first time all evening. "Liam." The room shifted again at the name. Brooke closed her eyes briefly. Even Ridge looked uncomfortable, because everyone understood the emotional weight behind it. Naming the child Liam connected him instantly to the tangled history of the Spencer family, to old loyalties and rivalries, to wounds that never fully healed. Bill looked strangely emotional for a moment before regaining control of himself. "You named him after your brother." Wyatt nodded once. "He's family." The irony of that statement lingered heavily in the room, considering how fractured the Spencer family had become over the years. Meanwhile, Brooke's thoughts spiraled darker with every passing second. She watched the way Ridge looked at the baby, softened, reflective, emotionally vulnerable, and panic quietly settled into her chest. Children change dynamics. Children created bonds impossible to ignore. And Shauna knew it. Brooke suddenly realized this entire reveal had likely been carefully orchestrated. The public setting, the family audience, the emotional impact of the child itself. Shauna and Wyatt hadn't chosen Bikini Bar by accident. They wanted maximum shock, maximum disruption, maximum power. No one at Forster Creations realized how dangerous Hope Logan would become after she walked away from the company. In their minds, Hope had always been predictable, the compassionate daughter, the emotional mediator, the woman who tried too hard to preserve peace even when others treated her with cruelty. She was the one expected to forgive, to compromise, to endure humiliation quietly, while stronger personalities dominated the battlefield around her. That version of Hope Logan died the moment she left Forster Creations. What emerged afterward was someone colder, sharper, and infinitely more frightening precisely because nobody saw the transformation coming. The first signs appeared quietly. A sudden acceleration of Logan's expansion plans, private meetings with international buyers, aggressive marketing campaigns launched without warning. At first, Steffy Forrester dismissed the changes as emotional retaliation from a wounded rival trying to prove herself after leaving the company. But within weeks, it became impossible to ignore the truth. Hope was not rebuilding. She was preparing for war. Inside the Logan headquarters, the atmosphere changed almost overnight under Hope's leadership. Employees who once viewed her as gentle and approachable now moved cautiously around her office, uncertain which version of Hope they might encounter on any given day. She worked impossible hours, barely slept, and approached business strategy with an intensity that bordered on obsession. The speed of her new product launch terrified even seasoned executives. Design teams were pushed beyond exhaustion. Marketing departments operated like military units. Contracts were negotiated ruthlessly. Every delay triggered cold fury from Hope, who no longer tolerated weakness, hesitation, or emotional excuses. And the most disturbing part was that it worked. The new Logan line exploded across the market with breathtaking momentum. Within days, social media campaigns dominated fashion headlines. Luxury retailers began shifting attention away from Forrester Creations toward the fresh, aggressive energy surrounding Hope's brand. Then the real attacks began. Hope personally targeted Steffy's most loyal clients. Not randomly. Precisely. One after another, longtime Forrester partners suddenly received exclusive offers from Logan. Lower prices, faster production timelines, more aggressive profit margins. Buyers who had worked with Steffy for years found themselves seduced by Hope's ruthless efficiency. Steffy initially refused to panic. "She's desperate," she told Ridge during an emergency executive meeting. "This is temporary." But even as she spoke, anxiety already tightened beneath her confidence. Because the reports spreading across the conference table painted a horrifying picture. Logan wasn't merely competing anymore. It was systematically dismantling Forrester's foundation. Ridge remained silent, while Carter reviewed the latest numbers with visible concern. "She's targeting our strongest international accounts," Carter explained carefully. "And somehow she's predicting our counteroffers before we even make them." Steffy's jaw hardened. That's impossible. But deep down, she already understood the truth. Hope knew Forrester Creations from the inside. She understood their weaknesses, their timing, their vulnerabilities. And now she was weaponizing that knowledge without mercy. Meanwhile, Brooke Logan watched her daughter's transformation with growing unease. At first, part of her admired Hope's strength. After years of emotional pain and professional betrayal, Hope finally seemed determined to stop letting others control her future. But admiration slowly became fear, because this was no longer simple ambition. Something darker had taken root inside Hope. One evening, Brooke arrived unexpectedly at Logan headquarters and found Hope alone inside the executive office overlooking downtown Los Angeles. The city lights reflected across the massive glass windows while stacks of financial reports covered the desk around her. Hope barely looked up. "You should go home," Brooke said gently. "It's almost midnight. I still have work. You've been here since 6 this morning." Hope continued, signing documents calmly. "That's how empires are built." The answer unsettled Brooke instantly. Not just the words themselves, but the emotionless way Hope delivered them. Brooke stepped closer cautiously. "Honey, what's happening to you?" Finally, Hope lifted her eyes, and Brooke almost flinched, because the warmth that once lived in Hope's expression seemed buried beneath exhaustion, resentment, and something dangerously close to bitterness. "What's happening," Hope replied quietly, "is that I finally stopped being weak." Brooke sat across from her slowly. "You were never weak." "Yes, I was." Hope leaned back in her chair, her voice calm but razor-sharp. "I spent years believing kindness would protect me. I let Steffy humiliate me publicly. I let Forrester use me whenever it benefited them. I kept sacrificing pieces of myself, trying to keep peace between families who never wanted peace in the first place. That's not fair." "No," Hope interrupted coldly. "What wasn't fair was watching my own mother choose Ridge over her daughter every single time." The accusation hit Brooke like physical force. "What are you talking about?" Hope laughed softly, though there was no warmth in it. "You always protected your marriage first. Every time Steffi attacked me, every time Ridge defended her, you told me to stay calm, to be patient, to understand." Her eyes darkened. "You sold out your own daughter just to keep Ridge from walking away." "Hope, no. You don't get to deny it anymore." Brooke stared at her in shock, because beneath the anger, there was genuine pain there. Years of buried resentment finally surfacing all at once. Hope stood slowly and walked toward the window overlooking Los Angeles. "You chose survival," she whispered. "I learned from you." The words haunted Brooke long after she left the office that night, because for the first time, she truly realized how deeply Hope had been damaged, not only by Steffi, not only by the Forresters, but by the constant emotional compromises forced upon her for the sake of family peace. Unfortunately, that damage was now transforming into something destructive. At Forrester Creations, Steffi's confidence deteriorated rapidly as Logan continued gaining ground. Investors started questioning long-term stability. Market analysts praised Hope's aggressive leadership style, while criticizing Forrester for becoming reactive instead of innovative. Every headline felt like another personal attack. Steffi stopped sleeping properly. She snapped at employees, lashed out during meetings, monitored stock reports obsessively throughout the day. And worst of all, she could feel control slipping away. One afternoon, after learning another major buyer had abandoned Forrester for Logan, Steffi stormed into Ridge's office, trembling with fury. "She's doing this intentionally." Ridge looked exhausted. "Of course she is." "No, Steffi snapped. You don't understand. Hope isn't trying to compete anymore. She wants to destroy us." The fear in her voice finally made Ridge pause, because Steffi rarely admitted fear. But this new version of Hope unsettled her profoundly.